I think it's safe to say most of us were on board for the ride a few months back when we had all of the hype for Destiny 2. It hasn't been the smoothest of rides though. In this video I wanted to talk about the first 6 months of Destiny 2, but more importantly, what happens in the next 6 months of Destiny 2. What's up guys, Hanish here, and today I wanted to talk about the future of the game. It's a pretty interesting conversation because we are sort of halfway through the first year of Destiny 2, and we know the cadence of content. We've got another DLC coming up. We're going to get that big fall expansion, which is when most people expect to see real changes in the game. So I think it's very important right now to evaluate the mistakes that Destiny has made, but also the things that are going to be vitally important for a sustainable Destiny once again in the future. So I did actually read an article by Kirk Hamilton from Kotaku, and it speaks about the first 6 months of Destiny 2. It is essentially a roadmap of the events following from the launch, and as we know, it hasn't been the smoothest of rides. They talk about the emerging lack of depth and post-launch content, the game-breaking bugs, the glitches, a few of which are still an issue in the game. They speak about the controversy around XP throttling, Eververse, poorly received DLC, outrage over DLC-locked content, faction rally throttles. Man, whether we agree with it as individuals or not, Destiny 2 and Bungie seem to have stumbled at every hurdle, especially between September and the beginning of 2018. Obviously, the first 6 months of a launch like this are a really big deal, and the way that the franchise has suffered due to the issues we've spoken about, and the damage to the player base and us as a community on both ends, it's kind of a big deal. So of course the next 6 months are going to be equally huge. The amusing thing about it though is, looking at the first 6 months of D2, almost all of the notable events or controversies are all of the things which we need to completely avoid moving forward. Of course, steering away from what feel like avoidable issues is one thing, but Bungie also have a significant amount of work ahead of them in fixing and reworking numerous elements of the game. The stress for the player right now who wants a fixed, inverted commas, fixed game is that there is no all-in-one fix for this, and it means that often there are updates which do almost nothing to excite a certain group of players. However, I do believe that there is an opportunity for Bungie to vastly reinvigorate the game, and I think a lot of the people who currently play the game believe that as well, otherwise they would be gone right now, you know? That doesn't mean that they can't undo all of the damage, but despite what some people say, I personally think that Bungie knows Destiny will not see the kind of success it has in the past with the current model. Sure, they sold a lot of D2, they sold it built on hype and the loyalty of the existing fan base, but since then an awful lot has changed. So in around 6 months time, we're going to probably see this big fall expansion for the game. Before that happens though, we will get the first big sandbox switch up and the March 27th update, which paves the way to the second expansion coming in May. We don't know a lot about the next DLC, but we've heard from Chris Barrett that the team are focusing on more progression content, more secrets, collectibles, and we had a hint about a possible 3-player PvE mode. Given that we're likely to see more focus on these types of content, and Bungie are assuring us that weapons and exotics are going to be explosive and fun, PvP is getting ranked play inside of a hopefully more enjoyable sandbox, considering that this content is stuff that Bungie have had the most amount of time to get feedback on, this is our best chance of getting a truly more meaningful and re-engageable update. I'm not saying that Bungie are going to absolutely nail the next DLC, I'm simply saying that this is their biggest opportunity so far, and it also comes at a time when it is most needed. The good thing if you're playing right now is that March 27th will bring a suite of improvements. Following that, Bungie will be showing off the next DLC for a few weeks, and then the DLC will drop. Give it a month and E3 will happen. We'll probably start learning about what's coming 3 or 4 months after DLC 2, so the cadence of updates and content is about to pick up, at least compared to what it's been for a couple of months. And so I think it's really important to highlight some of the stuff that is going to be very important over the next 6 months while these updates happen. If you look back at the first 6 months, a simple thing that the game needs to try and avoid is massive controversy over poor decision making. In particular, Bungie need to not fail players on the Eververse promise. Bungie assured players that Crimson Days style system changes around Eververse would be wound into the game in general during Season 3, so let's make sure that that happens and that there is clear conversation about how things will work before Season 3 begins. Onto actual content stuff though, I think systems around weapons and armor, how they drop, how desirable they are, and or the progression and customization they provide does need serious attention in the game, and most people people will agree with this, you know, whatever your opinions are on random roles or perks on this or mods 2.0, we all feel the effects of this. The point really is that we need reasons to chase gear in Destiny. Simply collecting gear is not enough. It's one big loop inside of the game, you know, powerful gear, some level of randomization in the attributes which define the power of the gear, or tangible progression which leads to actual benefits which thrill, excite, and empower players, which define their accomplishments and investment. That is what gear has to do in Destiny, in my opinion. Gear in Destiny 1 did do those things, and there is more than one way to do those things, and who knows, maybe Bungie will take a leap with the next DLC, but the reality is, by September, we need to see the real answer to this problem. Otherwise, it will never stop being one of the game's biggest problems. I'm also hoping that they're considering things like the weapon system personally. Some people like it how it is, others don't, and I think perhaps innovation could be the key to solving the issue. Overall though, gear needs to be desirable in the first place. On the subject of progression in particular, we need some real vendor and reputation progression in the game. Some of the chase which Destiny needs could be provided through styles of questification. Players like to make progress. Even small things like taking away ranks for factions removes some of the sense of progression. More importantly though, we should see desirable loot which you can unlock through vendor progression. There should be exclusive weapons, exotics, and rewards which you can attain by completing certain ranks or vendor bounties. The same needs to apply for ranked PvP as well. There should be real rewards to chase via that system. Ranked PvP is actually a great example because in the long term I think we need to see similar progression for some of the PvE elements as well. These can provide levels of customization, even cosmetics. I'm not saying that they're fantastic loot, it's just that once in the past we did actually quite enjoy cosmetics when we had the rest of the depth that we needed in the game. Right now in D2, the icing on the cake feels like it's being treated like the cake itself, if that makes any sense. You can't ice a cake if you haven't finished baking a cake, unless you want to make a big mess, I guess. The other thing which needs some work is mystery and majesty in the game. Again, the appeal and quality of gear and the prestige associated with it needs to improve. We also need those hidden quests, exotics, and lore to return. We need missions similar to what we had in the Taken King. We need lots of it. The exotic sword quests, the hunt for Sleeper Simulant. These are elements which both intrigue and engage players, but also connect them to the world and the things that they're actually earning in those encounters. Of course, there are tons of smaller elements which need constant assessment in the game. In future, you know, we need more sandbox tuning. We need Iron Banner and Faction Rally improvements, some of which could be provided through the elements that we've already discussed. And on top of that, frankly, the gear just needs to be more appealing in general. I feel like these need to be core focuses for Bungie over the next 6 months in order to win back players and just generally to improve the game. Again, back to the D1 thing, I'm not saying that it has to be copied, but the first game holds most of the answers, and with the slow change in direction and Bungie slowly bringing these kind of updates, now is the time for them to make the right calls moving forward. So of course, now it's in Bungie's hands. We're going to get the update, we're going to get the DLC after that. The only question that really remains on our end is, what do you guys want to see? What is it that is most important? I love reading your comments down below. It's definitely always intriguing to get people's different angles and see what, you know, the kind of majority vote on things is. Some people think that when I make these videos, they're intended, you know, in order to complain about the game. Sometimes they may sound a little bit like that, but really I think it's about having a discussion with the community, the people that play the game, and getting a sense for, you know, where we need to go and where we need to be and when Bungie are and are not doing the things that, you know, we value. And that is really what the entire discussion is all about. So let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know what it would take to bring you back or keep you playing Destiny going forward. If you have enjoyed the video though, a like always helps me out on the channel, guys. If you're new around here and you want to hear more Destiny 2 discussion as well as content and news, feel free to hit that subscribe button. But for now, I hope you guys have an awesome day.